centers such as monasteries, nunneries, and temples were razed to the ground. Historical buildings and monuments were demolished. Natural resources have been indiscriminately exploited. Today, Tibet's fragile environment has been polluted. Massive deforestation has been carried out, and wildlife such as wild yaks and Tibetan antelopes are being driven to extinction. These 50 years have brought untold suffering and destruction to the land and people of Tibet. Even today, Tibetans in Tibet live in constant fear, and the Chinese authorities remain constantly suspicious of them. Today, the religion, culture, language, and identity which successive generations of Tibetans have considered more precious than their lives are nearing extinction. In short, the Tibetan people are regarded like criminals deserving to be put to death. The Tibetan people's tragedy was set out in the late Panchen Rinpoche's 70,000 character petition to the Chinese government in 1962. He raised it again in his speech in Shigaze in 1989, shortly before he died, when he said that what we have lost under Chinese communist rule far outweighs what we have gained. Many concerned and unbiased Tibetans have also spoken out about the hardships of the Tibetan people. Even Hu Yaobang, the Communist Party secretary, when he arrived in Lhasa in 1980, clearly acknowledged these mistakes and asked the Tibetans for their forgiveness. Many infrastructural developments such as roads, airports, railways, and so forth, which seem to have brought progress to Tibetan areas, were really done with the political objective of cynicizing Tibet at the huge cost of devastating the Tibetan environment and way of life. As for the Tibetan refugees, although we initially faced many problems such as great differences of climate and language and difficulties earning our livelihood, we have been successful in re-establishing ourselves in exile. Due to the great generosity of our host countries, especially India, Tibetans have been able to live in freedom without fear. We have been able to earn a livelihood and uphold our culture and religion. We have been able to provide our children with both traditional and modern education, as well as engaging in efforts to resolve the Tibet issue. There have been other positive results too. Greater understanding of Tibetan Buddhism with its emphasis on compassion has made a positive contribution in many parts of the world. Immediately after our arrival in exile, I began to work on the promotion of democracy in the Tibetan community with the establishment of the Tibetan Parliament in exile. Since then, we have taken gradual steps on the path to democracy, and today our exile administration has evolved into a fully functioning democracy with a written charter of its own and a legislative body. This is indeed something we can all be proud of. Since 2001, we have instituted a system by which the political leadership of Tibetan exiles is directly elected through procedures similar to those in other democratic systems. Currently, the directly elected Kaduntipa, the cabinet chairperson, second term is underway. Consequently, my daily administrative responsibilities have reduced, and today I am in a state of semi-retirement. However, to work for the just cause of Tibet is the responsibility of every Tibetan, and as long as I live, I will uphold this responsibility. As a human being, my main commitment is in the promotion of human values. This is what I consider the key factor for a happy life at the individual, family, and community level. As a religious practitioner, my second commitment is the promotion of inter-religious harmony. My third commitment is, of course, the issue of Tibet. This is firstly due to my being a Tibetan with the name of Dalai Lama. More importantly, it is due to the trust that Tibetans both inside and outside Tibet have placed in me. These are the three important commitments which I always keep in mind. In addition to looking after the well-being of the exiled Tibetan community, which they have done quite well, the principal task of the Central Tibetan Administration has been to work towards the resolution of the issue of Tibet. Having led the mutually beneficial middle way policy in 1974, we were ready to respond to Deng Xiaoping when he proposed talks in 1979. Many talks have conducted and fact-finding delegations dispatched. These, however, did not bear any concrete results, and formal contacts eventually broke off in 1993. Subsequently, in 1996-1997, we conducted an opinion poll of the Tibetans in exile and collected suggestions from Tibet, whenever possible, on a proposed referendum by which the Tibetan people were to determine the future course of our freedom struggle to their full satisfaction. Based on the outcome of the poll and the suggestions from Tibet, we decided to continue the policy of middle way. Since the re-establishment of contacts in 2002, we have followed a policy of one official channel and one agenda and have held 8 rounds of talks with the Chinese authorities. As a consequence, we presented a memorandum on genuine autonomy for the Tibetan people, explaining how the conditions for national regional autonomy as set forth in the Chinese constitution would be met by the full implementation of its laws on autonomy. The Chinese insisted that we accept Tibet as having been a part of China since ancient times is not only inaccurate but also unreasonable. We cannot change the past, no matter whether it was good or bad. Distorting history for political purposes is incorrect. We need to look to the future and work for our mutual benefit. We Tibetans are looking for a legitimate and meaningful autonomy, an arrangement that would enable Tibetans to live within the framework of the People's Republic of China. Fulfilling the aspirations of the Tibetan people will enable China to achieve stability and unity. From our side, we are not making any demands based on history. Looking back at history, there is no country in the world today, including China, whose territorial status has remained forever unchanged, nor can it remain unchanged. Our aspiration that all Tibetans be brought under a single autonomous administration is in keeping with the very objective of the principle of national regional autonomy. It also fulfills the fundamental requirements of the Tibetan and Chinese peoples. The Chinese constitution and other related laws and regulations do not pose any obstacle to this, and many leaders of the Chinese central government have accepted this genuine aspiration. When signing the 17-point agreement, Premier Zhou Enlai acknowledged it as a reasonable demand. In 1956, when establishing the preparatory committee for the Tibet Autonomous Region, Vice Premier Ten Yi, pointing at a map, said if Lhasa could be made the capital of the Tibet Autonomous Region, which included the Tibetan areas within the other provinces, it would contribute to the development of Tibet and friendship between the Tibetan and Chinese nationalities, a view shared by Panchen Rinpoche and many Tibetan cadres and scholars. If Chinese leaders had any objection to our proposals, they could have provided